maybe take you back a little bit to our standard picture, right? Let me see. Sandhya will tell us what all these are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Quickly.
Okay. IR.
PM. Project. What is project?
What is IR? Knowledge. Process groups.
Third is
Life cycle.
life cycle.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have to put in the same model.
So
Process
friends,
groups.
if you get a question wrong and that really impacts you for a long time, and 30 minutes, seconds, in 1 minute you have no idea what's going on in your life, you need to really collect yourself and get back, right? Because in real life when you're doing projects, suddenly one sponsor will come and throw the whole project off. Do you really get impacted by it and get disturbed and keep brooding and thinking all your life? No. You just move on real quick, right? Project management is the ability and the skill to really accept failure, right? 100 times in a day, 1,000 times in a day. What's the big deal? But it should not change your mental outlook, right? It should let the same excitement be there. It should let the same energy be given to things as they deserve, right? So, third is,
Process groups.
okay, fourth,
Time, cost.
fourth,
Scope. Wait, what?
Integration.
No. I'm talking about the triple constraints. Time, cost, and
Time.
scope. Scope, time, cost, integration, and quality.
So the umbrella plan, which is the high level plan, right, which talks about the structure, the framework, we call it as a scope management plan. So here we're saying, how would we go about creating this scope? What's in, what's out? What is going to be our overall philosophy for creating that? And having done that, the next thing is, let's start getting the requirements. Who will give the requirements?
Sponsors.
Stakeholder, sponsor, somebody, right? And why do you think I've put this here and this here? Spatially.
Stakeholders is right down in the chart.
Very good. Because stakeholders is a part of
Knowledge area.
knowledge area called stakeholder management, where the process is
Identify stakeholders.
identify stakeholders. So right at the beginning of the project, in the initiation phase, you have identified the stakeholders. Now you're going about collecting requirements from them.
Before
Right.
we put in the charter, right? As we are developing the charter.
So charter was already developed here.
So in that, the requirements will be there. I mean, the scope may be there in that too, right? Partially.
No. Scope is
Partially, you are right.
Yeah.
Partially at a
High level.
high level.
Yeah.
And if you remember, we discussed this funnel,
Yeah.
right? So we said high level charter, and then we talked about
Project management.
requirements, then scope, then time and cost, right? So we said scope, we are defining here also, but here it is all
Right.
high level. So now friends, we got the requirements, high level requirements in the charter, and detailed requirements we are collecting here, right? So we'll look at different ways of collecting information, right? And what are those ways? We'll talk in detail. So now we made the plan, we got the requirements, what next? We will define the scope of the project, right? What is the scope of this current project? Well, we got 100 requirements from the stakeholders. Are we going to work on all 100?
No,
No.
Why not?
High priority.
we are doing we are prioritizing the requirement.
Very good. So in Agile they call it must-scope. Must-scope. Must have, should have, could have, won't have. But the idea is we'll probably kind of prioritize the requirements in high, medium, low, whatever, right? And then say, oh, we are doing these 45 requirements, we're not working on these 55. So this 45 is in scope of the project. So friends, that is the process that we're talking about. Now, once you've completed this, then what next? You say, okay, now I will make a clear cut.
You can't see.
Right? What is this?
We won't be able to see much towards the
Oh,
back
because the
because
board.
of the board.
We got this for the CSM class. So, we said, once we defined the scope, we selected these 45 requirements. We are going to create a detailed structure. What comes at the top, then what are those things under it? Let's say we are making an iPhone. So hardware, software, and within the software, what comes first, what comes second. Then we'll keep on breaking it down till we reach to the lowermost unit. So what are we engaging in, friends?
UBS.
Huh?
WBS.
WBS. What? Bullshit, right?
Work breakdown
Work.
structure.
Sorry. Work breakdown structure. Right? So here we are at the product level, and then we keep decomposing it, right? Breaking it down till we reach the lowest level, which is called as Kyati.
Work packages.
Very good. Work package. So, what we've done till now, friends, we defined the high-level scope. Based on that, we collected the requirement from the stakeholders. Then we said we cannot work on all of them. Let's scope, do the scoping, and we selected these many. And then we went about picking these ones only and created a structure of the work in what logical sequence it has to be done. What are the components to be created, right? Once we have done with this, friends, then we start implementing the project. So when you implement the project, what happens?
Create the plan.
So you already created the plan, and then you start to implement it, execute the plan, right? Implement or execute. So when you execute, what do you get?
Get the product.
Product. When you get the product straight away, or you get some
Step by step.
Step by
steps or
phases.
phases,
Phases.
and what you get is deliverables, right? So you get some deliverables. Do you get all the deliverables, or you get to have some other components that you're still working on?
Yeah.
Data.
So work.
Data.
Work performance data. So you got this cab, but you're still working on this shell. You got the cab, you got the shell, but you're still working on this part. So data is available that you are 50% done. So what we call that as work performance data. Now friends, what will happen is the deliverables that you create, they will go for testing. And we will discuss this when we discuss the class called quality. They go for quality control testing. After they are tested, they will come here for validation. Right? What does validation means? In software language, sometimes we call it UAT. What is testing called as?
Plan versus execution.
Verification. Right? Is the deliverable correct? We said the iPhone camera should load in 30 seconds. Is it loading in 30 seconds? That is called as check of correctness. This is the check of completeness. Is this what the sponsor wanted? Is this based on the acceptance criteria? Is it based on the defined requirements? Right? So that is why we need to do a validation before it goes to close out. That is what happens to the deliverables. Work performance data that you get, what do you do with that? You check it for control purposes, right? So you see with this data how much I am done, 40%, 50%, 60%. I'm too much behind. I cannot reach my goal if I continue this way. I need to get more money. I need to get more time from stakeholders, right? So friends, that is the notion here. So this is a very high level explanation of the entire scope management, right? So friends, that is the high level explanation before we take a break. Scope management plan, what we collect. That's the first process. Second process is collect requirements. Third process is define scope. Fourth process is create work breakdown structure. Now, all this is planning, right? Because you're just thinking what to do. And then we said start executing. When you execute the project, you want to see how it is going. So that is why both these processes are part of controlling. And this is where Parag said, no, it is not controlling, it is execution. So friends, controlling is something which happens from the beginning of the project till the end of the project. Of course, it does happen in execution. How would you know whether you need to control or not? Only when you're doing. So while doing, you find out that you're not doing okay or you're doing okay. So both these processes, this is called as validate scope. Happens here. This is control scope. Happens here. Now all these processes that I talked about, they are outside of the knowledge area. For example, stakeholder, close out. So fifth, validate scope, and sixth, control scope. So I'll repeat one more time. Scope management plan, collect requirements, define scope, create work breakdown structure, validate scope for deliverables which are ready, and control scope check to see are you within the limits for the variables that you're working on. They are not yet ready. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a small break.